If you're not planning on having kids, I guess I'll have to do it myself. Should we just get divorced and do it? At a somewhat odd dinner table, the word divorce suddenly came up. My heart skipped a beat, and I involuntarily stopped using my fork. However, I quickly looked up and turned back to the two of them. So, we're getting a divorce, huh? What? Despite being the ones who brought it up, they both looked surprised. Seeing their reaction, I immediately corrected my statement about divorce. Right. Of course, it's just a joke. David, relieved, laughed. Beside him, Emily also covered her mouth with her hand, laughing joyfully. But the truth is, I do want a divorce. However, I still haven't gathered enough evidence. It's too early to go through with a divorce without proper preparation. I want to get back at David and the others once everything is in place. I've always thought that way, but this conversation made me even more determined. Yeah. Just kidding. I joined in David's conversation, making sure they didn't suspect that I was actually considering divorce. My name is Lily Smith, 27 years old. I used to work in the administration department of a design company, but I quit my job to become a homemaker when I got married. My husband's name is David. I met David at a singles party invited by a friend. I'm not good at socializing. I spent my weekends at home and didn't go out for drinks or fun on workdays, living a solitary life. Naturally, I hadn't had a boyfriend for a while. People around me, like friends and juniors, were all getting married or had significant others. Whenever someone talked about their boyfriend or husband, I felt a sense of urgency. I thought it was about time to find someone. That's when a friend invited me to a mixer. My friend was surprised when I accepted the invitation. Wow, I just asked on a whim. Did something happen? Nothing. I just changed my mind, you know. I'm getting older and need to think about the future, maybe find a boyfriend. I shared my thoughts without hiding anything. Then, my friend laughed and said, "Oh, I see. You've changed your mind." I'm glad I asked. On the day of the mixer, I went to the pub with my friend, and several people were already there, having a good time. She easily joined the group, but I couldn't. Even as the mixer went on, I couldn't manage to strike up a conversation and just kept drinking alone in a corner. Maybe it's impossible for someone like me to find a boyfriend. As my glass neared emptiness, I was lost in thought. I could hear lively voices coming from around me. My friend was enjoying the mixer, being the center of attention in the group. I envied those who could enjoy such gatherings. I wish I could be like that. I was thinking of leaving early when I glanced at my watch, but just then. Hey, what's wrong? You look kind of lonely sitting here by yourself. Huh? A man approached me and started a conversation. This man, who would later become my husband, was David. Do you mind if I sit and talk with you? Yes, I mean, sure. David sat next to me, placing his drink on the table. We had already introduced ourselves earlier, so he knew my name. You're Lily, right? Yes. And you're David? That's right. Thanks for remembering my name. David seemed genuinely pleased and thanked me. After that, we didn't join the rest of the group, just continued talking, just the two of us. Our conversation ranged from work to hobbies, to where we lived, and more. Wow. Really? Perhaps sensing my nervousness, David tried to keep the conversation lively, and his easygoing nature made my tension fade away. David talked enthusiastically and listened with genuine interest. Before I knew it, I started to feel a connection with him. I thought it was kind of quick for me to get attached. But for someone who doesn't usually talk to people, this was enough to feel a connection. After the mixer ended, we went to a bar to continue drinking, just the two of us. David became more relaxed than he was at the mixer. Maybe he had been affected by the atmosphere earlier. But he still listened to me just as attentively. Seeing him like this, my feelings for him grew. I had a great time today. Thank you. Thank you, too. We hit it off so well that we exchanged contact information and made plans to meet again. After that, we started seeing each other frequently. I couldn't believe how well things were going. I had just decided to get a boyfriend, got invited to a mixer, and met someone I really clicked with. I was expecting more of a struggle, so it all felt a bit surreal. About 2 months after the mixer, David proposed, and we started dating. He was as kind and gentle as he had been before we were together. Whenever we had days off, we'd go for drives or take trips, spending time together. But David was often busy with work. So our days off together were honestly rare, and we probably spent less time together than most couples. Instead, we kept in touch through phone calls and emails. Saying I was satisfied and not lonely would be a lie. I wanted to see David more, to be with him. Those feelings only grew stronger day by day. But the days we did meet were filled with happiness. Each time, I was reminded of how much I liked David. One day, as I continued living this way, suddenly, David introduced me to a certain woman. "Let me introduce you. This is Emily Johnson, my childhood friend. Nice to meet you." Emily Johnson, the woman he introduced as his childhood friend. From what I heard, David and Emily have known each other since they were in kindergarten. They still visit each other's family homes and go out to eat together, just the two of them. "Emily's been a really good friend since we were kids." "Oh, remember that time when..." "Wait, why are you bringing that up now?" "That did happen, but still." David and Emily were completely absorbed in their own world, chatting away. Naturally, I had no idea how to handle such a situation. All I could do was watch the two of them with a forced smile. David noticed my discomfort and said, "Oh, sorry about that. I thought I'd introduce you since Emily and I will probably keep seeing each other." Honestly, I wondered why I had to be involved with his childhood friend. But I wasn't brave enough to voice these thoughts. I didn't want to make David or Emily uncomfortable, so I went along with their conversation. "So, that's how it is. But I didn't know David was meeting you today. I just showed up suddenly, I hope that's okay." "Don't worry about it. I'm really happy to meet you." "Really? Thank you." Emily smiled sweetly and thanked me. But as the conversation continued, David and Emily seemed to create their own world, leaving me out. At first, I tried desperately to join in, but soon realized it was hopeless and just sipped my coffee in silence. If they were going to talk just between themselves, there was no need for me to be there. I watched them silently, feeling a mix of sadness and emptiness. Eventually, 2 hours after meeting Emily, I was finally able to leave, having been treated like I wasn't even there the whole time. "I'm really sorry. It's been a while since I've seen Emily." "It's okay. I'm glad you could catch up." "Thanks. I'm really sorry." David apologized, looking genuinely remorseful. He seemed to think he had done something wrong. If that was the case, he shouldn't have created a world just for himself and Emily in the first place, which made me feel a bit angry. "No, really, it's okay." I accepted David's apology without any reproach. After that incident, David stopped mentioning Emily. Perhaps he realized it was a sensitive issue. He seemed more attentive to my feelings, as if he really believed he had done something wrong. While I felt lonely and anxious at the time, honestly, it wasn't something I needed to worry about so much. After all, they were childhood friends. It's understandable that they might get caught up in conversation after a long time apart. However, I couldn't bring myself to tell him not to worry about Emily. I didn't want to dredge it up again. A few weeks after meeting Emily, David returned to his usual self, and it felt like our normal life had resumed. A year later, David proposed, and we got married. At our wedding, there were family, friends, colleagues, and Emily too. Emily seemed genuinely happy for us. "Congratulations on your wedding. You know, David is a really great guy. I'm sure you'll be very happy." "Thank you." Emily made a point of coming over to me and saying these words. Her smile was a mix of happiness and sadness, a complex expression. After the wedding, we went back to our new home as a married couple. Even though we were already living together, moving in together as a married couple, I found myself being a bit shy. Next to me was David. Just the thought of living together in the same space made my heart race. I couldn't help but smile, thinking about our future together. I wanted to spend my life with David, but this happy life did not last long. David was still busy with work after we got married, but he tried to spend as much time with me as possible. On weekdays, unless he had out for a few drinks or special commitments, he always made sure to come home before midnight. Even though he must have been tired himself, he always had kind words for me, who had been doing housework all day. On weekends, he spent all his time with me, taking me on trips and out shopping. It might seem ordinary, but I felt truly happy. However, one day, our life began to change drastically when a certain person started to intrude upon our lives. It happened one weekend when David and I were shopping in town. Suddenly, I spotted a familiar figure. It was Emily. Emily had seen us too and ran over to us, looking delighted. "Hey, David, Lily. What a coincidence. Emily. What a surprise," David replied, and as I was about to greet her, he casually reached out and touched Emily's head. He started ruffling her hair playfully. "Hey, David, stop it. You're messing up my hair." "Ah, sorry about that. I just can't help it when I see you." I understood that they were close, but seeing them like this made me feel uncomfortable. David seemed unconcerned, and Emily didn't mind at all. They started a conversation, paying no attention to me. Once again, I felt a sense of emptiness swirling inside me. Not knowing what to do, I looked at nearby products and thought vaguely about where we should go next. Emily continued talking to David, apparently aware of my presence but unconcerned. About 10 minutes after meeting Emily, the conversation ended. "Sorry. I didn't realize you two were on a date today. I just stumbled upon you." "No problem." "Right, Lily?" Yeah." Unable to deny it, I pretended not to mind. But from that day on, Emily often appeared wherever David and I went. The first 2 times seemed coincidental, but after repeatedly encountering her, I suspected they were coordinating. They always acted surprised to see each other. Their usual lines were, "Oh, what a surprise, and it's just a coincidence." Once, I gathered the courage to ask them, "Are you two in touch with each other? It seems more than a coincidence to keep bumping into each other like this." But they denied it. "No, it's just a coincidence." "Right, Emily?" "Yeah. Just a coincidence." They laughed together. Their expressions seemed somewhat mocking to me. Their interactions often involved holding hands or touching each other's faces. They engaged in what seemed to me like excessive physical affection. I couldn't object since they were childhood friends, but it still bothered me. "Wait, let's not hold hands, okay?" Lily looks upset. "Ah, sorry, Lily. Emily is just a friend, nothing more." "Don't worry." "What?" "I don't like you either." Emily's words led David to playfully put his hand on her head again. Despite my obvious displeasure, David continued his physical interactions with Emily. Emily seemed to enjoy it. I wondered if such behavior was normal for childhood friends. Watching them, my distrust and discomfort grew. After several such instances, I gathered the courage to speak up. "David. What's up?" He looked at me with his usual kind smile. "I want to talk about Emily. I know you two are childhood friends and close, but could you maybe reduce the physical contact a bit?" "Reduce it?" "Yeah, I mean, we are married after all." David's face turned serious for a moment, but he quickly regained his composure. That brief serious expression frightened me, and I regretted asking him. "Ah, sorry about that. Did it really bother you?" "A little." Normally, David would have laughed and agreed. But he was different that day. "But hey, I've told you Emily and I are just childhood friends, right? There's really nothing else to it." "Okay? What does that mean?" "Just don't worry about it. It's just part of our communication." "Okay." He gave a troubled smile and left. Watching him go, I deeply regretted my question, wondering if I had made an unreasonable request or upset David. But at the same time, I questioned whether I was wrong. As his wife, I wanted him to limit his physical contact with Emily, even though she is his childhood friend. Yet, I continued living with David, feeling uneasy. A month after my request, nothing had changed in my life. In fact, things seemed to get worse. Emily started to show up at our house unannounced. She would come on weekdays or weekends, eat, and leave. Of course, I'm the one who does all the preparation. Emily would just sit and talk with David on the couch. Even when I asked her to at least help carry the dishes, she'd dismiss it with, "You can handle that much on your own, right?" and laugh it off. By this time, David had completely taken Emily's side. He hardly listened to me and always talked about Emily. "Really? Lily can't do anything on her own." "Hey, don't say that in front of her." They laughed at me as if mocking. I felt terrible, obviously. When I silently returned to the kitchen, they complained about me. Is she sulking? Over this? That's a bit much, isn't it? I tried to ignore their voices and continued preparing the meal. Since she's coming over uninvited, it would be nice if she at least helped with the preparations. Yet, I'm the one who ends up being complained about. It's incredibly rude to suggest that I'm sulking or can't do anything on my own. Emily comes over several times a week. And always stays for a meal. There's no sense of calm even during dinner. She sits next to David and continually teases and distracts him. David seemed to enjoy it. They fed each other, laughed, and looked like a couple to anyone watching. Yet, I heard Emily was engaged. It is a man named Michael Anderson. A high-ranking employee at the same company as her. I've heard he's currently overseas. But still, considering she has a fiancé, I can't help but think it's inappropriate to continue such excessive physical contact with a childhood friend like this. Could you ask Emily to cut back on her visits a bit? The food expenses are adding up, and it's more work to cook. But David laughed off my request, dismissing my concerns. But he says Emily is single and gets lonely at home. Maybe you could be a bit more understanding. But don't worry about it. David didn't seem to have any intention of reproaching Emily. Sometimes, I felt he seemed happier with her than with me. Why couldn't he give me that same smile? Slowly, my feelings turned to resentment, not just towards Emily, but also towards David when I saw him with her. A year after our marriage, Emily continued to frequent our home. By then, I had given up and entertained her without complaint. I was wondering if this was what David and Emily wanted. Their physical closeness intensified, and they seemed happier than ever. It looked like this routine would continue until Emily got married. The thought alone was depressing. Divorce. The word started to cross my mind occasionally. But I couldn't bring myself to act on it, and time just passed. However, one day, a comment from Emily sparked my decision to divorce. Aren't you two planning to have kids? What? Her tactless remark took me by surprise. David and I had discussed and decided not to have children for now. We had discussed that we might not have children at all, and yet. Well, Lily absolutely doesn't want to. That's not true. I never said that. I never said that. I argued back, frustrated by David's attempt to appease Emily. Really? Lily, it's been about a year since you got married. Why don't you want kids? I never said I didn't want. But Emily didn't listen. David likes kids, right? Lily, it's unfair of you to be so selfish. Selfish? I never said such thing. Seriously, she's being difficult. David continued to take Emily's side. Even in this situation, he supported his childhood friend over his wife. I finally realized that I might not be able to continue with him. Then Emily said something outrageous. If you don't want kids, I'll have them for you. Maybe we should just get a divorce and do it. David laughed along with Emily's comment, not rebuking her for bringing up divorce. Suddenly, the mention of divorce sent a shock through me, causing my heart to race and my hand to stop mid-air with my folk. Joke or not, there are things you just don't say. I was dismayed by their lack of discernment. But I quickly faced them and said, So, we're getting a divorce, huh? What? They were surprised, despite initiating the topic. I immediately corrected myself. Just kidding. We'll think about having kids soon. Ah, right. It was just a joke. David laughed, relieved. Emily also smiled, covering her mouth with her hand. It was supposed to be a joyous occasion. But the truth was, I did want a divorce. Despite saying it was a joke, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Now I was determined to actually go through with it. Emily's comment was a blessing in disguise, giving me the push I needed. However, it was too soon to act. Right, just a joke. As I answered David, I thought about my next move. From closely observing David and Emily, a thought crossed my mind. They might be having an affair. My options were limited. After much thought, I decided to hire a private investigator to gather evidence of infidelity. I also tried to sneak a look at David's phone. If they weren't cheating, I'd have to think of something else. But that wasn't necessary. When I checked David's unlocked phone, I found a plethora of exchanges between him and Emily. The content was damning. Sweet conversations like lovers, messages hinting at a physical relationship, and photos from their hotel visits. There was more than enough evidence to call it proof. Considering the phone was unlocked, it seemed like David had let his guard down completely. Moreover, the detective agency's investigation revealed that he and Emily met frequently. Mostly at hotels. Checking the dates they met, they all coincided with the days David told me he would be late. He had been lying due to overtime or drinks with colleagues to meet Emily secretly. Though I had a sense that they were having an affair, seeing solid evidence made it all too real and left me with indescribable feelings. During this time, David and Emily's behavior didn't change. Emily kept coming over for meals and teasing me. Unaware of what I was doing behind the scenes, the two of them carried on with their carefree behavior, which seemed almost comical to me. About a month after I started gathering evidence, David invited me to an event. There's an engagement party for Emily next month. An engagement party? Yeah. You know, Emily's fiancé is quite an important person, so they're having a sort of unveiling party to celebrate their marriage. So, her fiancé is coming back for it? Yeah, I think he's already back. The engagement party didn't concern me. The idea of having such a celebration while having an affair baffled me. That's nice. Were you invited? You should go. I spoke dismissively, feeling a bit resentful towards David's nonchalant attitude. However, his response was unexpected. What are you talking about? You're coming with me. Me? Why? Because you've always been so helpful to Emily. Oh, is that so? Wanted because of gratitude. I wondered if that was the real reason for my invitation. My trust had eroded so much that I even doubted why I was invited. But it would be rude to decline. You're not a fan of parties, right? Can you handle it? No, I'll go. They invited me, after all. David's face brightened at my response. Great. I'll let Emily know. David, looking pleased, took out his smartphone, possibly to contact Emily, and headed back to his room. Honestly, I didn't want to go. The last thing I wanted was to witness Emily's happiness. While wondering why I was even at this party, a certain strategy came to mind during the preparations. Using this party, I could drastically change our current situation. With that idea in mind, it made sense to use the party to my advantage. What I was about to do might be considered low. But I had suffered enough from David and Emily's actions. A little retaliation seemed justified. I proceeded with the party preparations while also planning my revenge against the two of them. A month later, the day of the party arrived. On the day of the party, David and I dressed appropriately and headed to the venue. The lavish decor of chandeliers, carpets, and tables was overwhelming. David, who used to be supportive, was now busy scanning the crowd. The guests were all distinguished-looking people, and I felt out of place. Then someone called out to David. Hey, David. Glad you could make it. Turning towards the voice, I saw Emily. Beside her stood a fresh-faced young man and an elderly couple who looked kind. Apparently, the young man was Michael, Emily's fiancé. And the older couple were her parents. Congratulations, Emily. Thank you. Congratulations to you too, sir, ma'am, and you, her fiancé. Thank you for your kind words. David's demeanor was unusually formal and respectful, a side of him I hadn't seen before. Thinking back, I realized I had never seen David act like this before. After the announcement, the party officially began. After getting our food, I returned to my seat, marked with my name tag, and found David chatting happily with Emily's parents. So, David, you and Emily have been childhood friends, right? What was she like back then? Emily as a child? Hey, don't embarrass me. David, ignoring Emily's embarrassment, shared stories from their childhood. She used to love catching bugs and running races. We played a lot of tag together. Are you really going to tell them that? Emily squirmed with embarrassment, but didn't seem entirely displeased. You two really seem close. I've always noticed how you're together, almost like real siblings. I knew it was impolite, but I couldn't let this opportunity pass. I had to implement my plan. Feeling apologetic, I nevertheless interjected. David seemed surprised by my interruption, his eyes widening in disbelief. Is that so? What's Emily like when she's with you, David? They're very close. It's like being with a lover. Hey, Lily! David tried to stop me, but I didn't hold back. Emily often comes to our house for meals. While I'm cooking, she's always chatting and having fun with David. Even during meals, they feed each other and hold hands. They're really close, aren't they? What are you saying? The atmosphere froze with my words. Emily's parents and fiancé looked at David and Emily in disbelief. Feeding each other? Yes. Oh, I don't have photos of that, but I have photos of them being close. Do you want to see? Hey! Lily! Before David could stop me, I showed the evidence from the detective agency and my own collection on my phone. The fiancé's face turned ashen. Lily! Don't say weird things. Weird? I'm just stating facts. This is how you two usually are. David was speechless, biting his lip in frustration. Emily, however, lashed out at me. It felt good. I have never seen David and Emily's frustrated faces like this before. I was glad I had gone through with my revenge. Lily! Don't do this. Why do you have these photos? You shouldn't know about this. Did you hire a detective? I can't believe it. Yes, I did hire a detective. Why? Their affair exposed, David was visibly shaken. Want to know why? I pulled out a filled-out divorce form from my bag and slammed it in front of David. Let's get divorced. I can't take it anymore. You don't have to say it here. Ever since we married, Emily has always been in our lives. We kept bumping into her when we went out, despite my asking you to keep her away. She kept coming over for dinner. And then you lied about working late to go to hotels with her. There's no point in staying married. I let it all out. David raised his voice, drawing everyone's attention. I know it was wrong, but if you knew it was wrong, why didn't you stop? Didn't I ask you many times to stop? Aren't you even sorry? Well, yes, but... Right, you're not sorry. If you were, you'd apologize instead of making excuses. Sorry. Emily interjected, trying to stop our argument. Hey, stop. Not here, not like this. Hey, Michael. Dad, Mom, help me. But her parents and fiancé didn't come to her aid. Emily, those photos are real, aren't they? What? I'm asking if they're real. But I guess it's pointless to ask, you wouldn't admit to cheating on your own. Michael looked deeply upset. It was understandable, he must have been thinking about his fiancée Emily all the while working overseas. And yet, she had been having an affair with her childhood friend. With so much evidence, I can't marry you. I was a fool to trust you. Wait! It's not true! It's all lies! Lies? So, you're saying Lily made all this up just to trap you and David? Yes, that's it. Really? I couldn't take it anymore. They had used me to their advantage, and now, Emily still refused to admit her infidelity. Were they still trying to manipulate things to go their way? I couldn't take it anymore. They had used me to their advantage, and now, Emily still refused to admit her infidelity. Who would do such a thing for you? I'm not that idle. If I were to spend my time on you, I'd rather find a new hobby. What did you say? My words angered Emily. But her parents intervened her. Emily, stop it. Aren't you ashamed? Dad. I never thought you would do something like this. Sure, you and David were close, but I didn't think it was in that way. It's truly embarrassing. Don't say it's embarrassing. It is embarrassing. Michael, I'm so sorry. I understand if you can't marry her, and we wouldn't mind if you call off the engagement. I'd like to apologize as well. I'm truly sorry for what happened. Seeing her parents apologizing to Michael, Emily seemed to finally realize the irreparable mistake she had made. She was in tears, desperately pleading with Michael. Please don't break off the engagement. I've had enough. I can't marry you. No. David, seeing Emily's state, also apologized to me. Lily, I'm really sorry. I won't cheat again. Please don't divorce me. But I couldn't trust him anymore. Really? I can't believe you. We're getting divorced. I'm seeking alimony. You should be with Emily, she's available now. No way, please reconsider. No. I can't live with you anymore. I pushed the divorce papers at him again. Understand this, there's no going back. Agree to the divorce now. Seems to realize I was serious. David finally agreed to the divorce. Finally, I could separate myself from this man. I wouldn't have to see Emily's face anymore. The realization of this fact brought me so much joy that I couldn't help but smile. A few days later, our divorce was finalized. I received alimony from both David and Emily. Emily's engagement was also called off. Despite the scandal, neither of them quit their jobs, probably to pay the alimony. Given the commotion that had occurred, I thought the reasons for our divorce would surely circulate at both of their companies. I had thought the scandal might make it uncomfortable for them to continue working at their companies, but it turned out they both couldn't afford to quit their jobs, needing to earn money to pay the alimony. In a way, I felt they got what they deserved. Admittedly, thinking this way might suggest I'm not entirely without malice. A year after the divorce, I apologized to Michael for ruining the party. However, he kindly said, "No worries at all. In fact, thank you for telling me about Emily's infidelity. It really helped me." A year has passed since my divorce from David. Now, I live comfortably alone in a new town, working a new job. I'm not sure what David and Emily are up to, but since the alimony is being deposited monthly, they must be managing somehow. It seems I'm better suited to living alone rather than with someone else. I likely won't marry again. I want to cherish these peaceful days that I hope will continue indefinitely. With this thought, I enjoyed my favorite tea alone, as I did today.